Good morning to you. It must be 5 o'clock in the East Coast, as I'm your host, Brandon Hardison, and it's time for another Hardison'S Tips. Today, I'd like to get you prepared for the last work week if you do a Monday through Friday by talking about something that maybe you haven't considered. I got a communication from someone, and this is a big business for them right now. They're just trying to find out how they need to proceed further. So, we're just going to talk about that. So, where does this position ourselves when we talk about outside sales, inside sales, up and down the street, in home sales, retail, automobile sales? This would be more like a B2C sales. So, we're going to spend a few minutes and let you get going thinking about senior living sales tips. Senior living sales tips. Are we preying on these folks? No. There are things that they need as our senior citizens if they still want to have a happy, healthy, wonderful balance of their years, not what they're living and they cannot understand and articulate. But this is the industry that you chose to be in for now. So, because of the email, let's address it. So, some stories about senior living sales tips that we probably can give you. And if you've been listening or watching me, you've heard me give this advice before. This isn't any new strategies by any stretch of the imagination. We have people who've thought and created processes long before you were thought of, and we still use some of those processes. So, what do we mean when we say stop selling and start helping? I'll repeat that again. If you've been in sales, have you ever heard the term stop selling and start helping? You see, no one likes being sold to, and definitely not during a global pandemic. But people do tend to be grateful for genuine help and concern. Whenever you speak to a prospect, particularly during these uncertain times, forget the word prospect. Don't think, how can I move this person to the next stage of the journey? I want to put them together. Instead, think of the word human and think about how you can help this fellow human. Some of the questions when it comes to this segment we need to be asking are, how are you and your family adjusting to social media? Or what do you miss most? Or how do you get to do what you do? How can I be of service to you right now? Helpful. Listen to their answers, share your experiences as well. You're professionals. And if they need help with something, help them. Get them the answers to their questions. Follow up in a meaningful way. Drop off care packages at their door. Guess what? If you build stronger relationships by making a real connection and demonstrating genuine empathy, you will naturally move people closer to a purchase decision when the time comes. And when the pandemic is over, you'll find the best and the most thing that the prospects get out of it is that you care. You have created a much stronger and enduring bond than you could have ever done with any other client that you're dealing with, no matter what vertical you're in. Now, a final note on this strategy. Yes, there's sorts of conversations and prospects that they will get from it. That's why we always, before, show that we're listening, never leave the table without both people understanding, but that's your job to recap the situation. But you say, I just don't have the time right now. So always be cognizant of what you're doing when it comes to this groups of people if you're selling to them. So that brings me to my next point. When we're talking about senior living sales tips, make an effort to move from voice to voice to contact to virtual. Once again, we need to keep our senior citizens, our grandparents, our great grandparents, our aunties, our uncles. Think of that when you're communicating or visiting with someone during this COVID period. Because you see, in the old days, or just like a few months ago before the pandemic, making up follow up phone calls to prospects were the norm. It worked fine. A phone call was more personable than an email. Hearing someone's voice is better than just looking at it online. But giving social distancing in this situation and the isolation with the person's age and conditions, we all found ourselves saying that we need to be doing something in a visual to still let them know that we care about them. So you already know that seeing someone's face and being able to read their movement, verbal, nonverbal gestures can be very critical in a sales process. But now you have the opportunity to make visual contact a regular part of your sales follow up process when it comes to this group of people. Using apps like Zoom or FaceTime to connect with the senior prospects, this visual contact better enables you to develop a relationship with the person rather than a prospect. It also allows the person on the other end to see you as a human being rather than merely a sales rep trying to sell them something. Suggesting video calls right now isn't hard sell either. People around the globe are using these modes of communications to keep in touch with family members and friends already. So when you are trying to attract this segment of the audience, always keep that in mind. I want to still stay in communication, but I do know about the distancing, and you do not feel comfortable time that I show up. So let's just flip it and do something new. And I'll tell you this, older generations are usually slow to adapt to new technologies. But history shows that when they finally do learn, they're hooked. So I know there's a lot of products and services that are going after the seniors in our America. And yes, they are being sold to. And yes, there are some guaranteed monies from the government. So if you're in that space and you want to deal with that particular audience, please remember, let's find the way to not be the salesperson, but I'm coming to help. Now, we'll end it here for part one. We'll pick it back up on the next video. Once again, Brandon Hardison, President of Champion Strategies, for a little Hardison's tips on Friday, November the 6th of 2020. I hope everybody gets out there and make it happen, because maybe today is your last day because you don't work on the weekends. So let's get every minute and make sure it counts. And as always, in parting, you go out and make it a